Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Temple Ahavat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Matt Berger. It's wonderful to see all of you. Hope you had a Hanukkah filled with much light and joy, happiness, and health. Allison Rosoff is here with me as always, and Tim Burnham down on the ivories, or as some say, tickling the ivories. We're going to begin our service with Yedid Nefesh, Heart's Delight, Source of Mercy. I leap like a deer to stand in awe before you, found on page 10, or right on the screen in front of you. 1, 2, 3. Continue now with the lighting of the Shabbos candles found on page 2. Poem I'd like to share, written by Suzanne Sabransky. Really an introduction, a poem for Lecha Dodi called Hidorari, Hidorari, which is the beginning of the, I believe, 5th stanza. Awake, awake. And here's the poem. Wake, my beloved, awake and arise. You cause me to breathe deeply. My pulse quickens when you are near. You are a bridge across the ages, extending beyond all time. A stirring of emotion overwhelms. From the secrets of your soul to the scars your heart hides, you are a part of me which cannot be disguised. In the land of our forebears, you arrived as a beacon, Without you, I am lost. Without me, your purpose fades. You are love as I am loved, each a gift. We are two of a kind. As one, we endure, and as one, we survive. As one, we awaken, and as one, we arise. As one, we are Israel, and as one, we are alive. You'll find the words to Lecha Dodi, Come My Beloved, traditionally a tune of the mystics of Shabbat, the mystics of the hilltop town of Tzfat in northern Israel. This arrangement by Alana Arian. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala, Erev Shabbat, Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala, Erev Shabbat, Nekavela.
Shemo v'zochor b'ribor echad, v'yishmi'anu el hamiluchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, v'shenu tiferet v'litila.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela.
Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki mikor haberacha, mirosh mikedem neisucha, sod ma'aseh b'machshavat techila.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela.
Hitoriri, hitoriri, ki ba'orech u'mi'uri, uri shir daviri, kivod Adonai
Alayich nikla. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Let's rise and greet the bride.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala, simcha u'tohara, toch emunei atzigula, boi chala, boi chala.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat,
Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Gala,
Erev Shabbat, Nekavela.
That was a fun one. I really like that. And how about a little reprise back to a Beatles tune? One of my favorites. Shalom Aleichem 2 with a little help from my friends.
3, 4.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharei Malachei Yom Mi Melech Malchei Hamati HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Oh, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Oh, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, Boachem, Boachem leShalom. Oh, Boachem, Boachem leShalom. Oh, Boachem, Boachem leShalom. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Setem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, Setem, Setem leShalom. Oh, Setem, Setem leShalom. Oh, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom. I like to think that those Shabbat Malachim, angels or messengers, were dancing along with us for that one. We're going to make our way toward Shema and its blessings by first chanting the Half Kaddish, page 26, if you have a prayer book in front of you.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah B'yamad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon U'chayed kol beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala U'vizman kariv V'imaru amen Yishmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam u'almei almaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnasei V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha b'richu Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damin ran be'alma v'imaru amen.
Please rise now for the Baruch Hu, the call to prayer.
La
continue with a prayer for the evening for creation, Ma'ariv Aravim, Be'ivrit and Hebrew on 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach she'arim, v'tvuna meshane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hokokavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzona. Borei yom v'layla goel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, u'mavdil ben yom u'ben layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Continuing with ahavat olam, love for the world. Unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts have you taught us. Therefore, God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we'll meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. Then your love shall never depart from our hearts. We praise you, Eternal One, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Let's sing Open Up Our Eyes as we prepare for the Shema. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Israel, Adonai is our God. Adonai is one. If you are standing, you can feel free to take a seat as we continue chanting the words of the Shema. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levacha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shokmecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Words of truth and faith, emet ve'emunah, are found on 39. Standing at the parted shores of history, we still believe what we are taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together as we sing Mi Chamocha, Who is Like You, Song of Freedom. Mi Chamocha, Ba'elim, Adonai. Mi Chamocha, Nedar Ba'kodesh. Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar Ba'kodesh Norati Lo Osei Velen Norati Lo Osei Velen Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar Ba'kodesh Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar Ba'kodesh Norati Lo Osei Velen Norati Lo Osei Velen. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Let's continue on 42, prayer for shelter and protection. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Let's now rise for our standing prayers, the tefillah, starting on 46, thanking God for the generations that came before us, for strength in our lives, and for moments of holiness.
Adonai, sifatai tiftachu fi agida hilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'chonei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imaot, U'mevi Geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ava, Melech Ozer, U'Mashiach U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atar Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Yaakov, Atar Av La'Oshia, Moshiv Ruach, U'Marida Gashem, Mechachel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzbiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Ata L'chachayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim beho yom yalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Feel free to be seated. And the fourth, fifth, and sixth blessing of the 7 on Shabbat is Kiddushat Hayom, for the sanctification of the day. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat, for Shabbat and its holiness. For prayer, Baruch atah Adonai HaMachazir Shechinato L'Tzion, let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. And for gratitude, Baruch atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha U'Chanadeh Lechodot, which means, blessed are you, God, you are worthy of our thanks and our praise. And finally, our prayer for peace, Birkat Shalom. Grant abundant peace, Shalom Rav, to Israel, your people forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, mivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Take a few moments now for our own silent prayers and reflections, and then if you're in the prayer book on page 60, we'll be singing Shalom Rav after this time.
Shalom Rav, V'Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam.
This time we'll turn our thoughts and our prayers to healing and the words of Misha Berach, God, the one who blesses, found on the screen before you or on 253. We, of course, at this time think of the millions of people in America and throughout the world who are ill at this time, and we hope and pray for their quick and full recovery. We also think of the following individuals in our community circle and hope and pray that they'll find courage, strength, and healing. We think of Phyllis Allman, Joanne Beeman Feidelman, Herb Bloom, Marcy Bunn, Lisa Cargile, Eddie Deerfield, Matthew Deinhardt, Edie Eckber, Heather Felser, Linda Fine, Harry Fleisch, Myra Friedman, Denise Freifeld, Hugo Freudenthal, Andrew Guerin, Mark Gittimer, Tina Gordon, Leah Gottlieb, Mark Eisenberg, Lois Kander, Carrie Kaufman, Erwin Kern, Arnold Miller, Evelyn Konigsberg, Faye Malkin, Arthur Mahler, Ed Marks, Aaron Mailer, Marcia Mollet, Sandy Morganlander, Reverend Tom Neese, Danny Pilder, Teresa Reese, Bob Rosen, Stephanie Ross, Andrew Schiller, Sue Schoenbaum, Dennis Schulman, Betty Sharp, Robert Seiler, Jeff Stark, Lee Van Ness, Vladimir Zelensky, David Gershon ben Leba Ve'elka, Tivcha bat Yaakov Balea. And if there are other names to add, feel free to add their names aloud or in your heart before we sing our prayer of healing. There are mirrors and there are windows. According to Jewish tradition, we're not supposed to pray in front of a mirror. It's true. At the same time, a Beit Tefillah, a house of prayer, or any sanctuary for that matter, must have at least one window. So what's the difference between a mirror and a window? A mirror is made of glass, but a window is also made of glass. There's a 20th century Yiddish poet named Shlomo or S. Ansky. He suggests an answer. In a mirror, the plain glass is covered with a little silver. As soon as the silver is added, you cease to see others and you only see yourself. All around us, there are mirrors and there are windows. Take, for example, your car. There are windows on every side of the vehicle. Collectively, they make up what's called the greenhouse of a car. First and foremost, they give us visibility for safety. They also give us plenty to look at and enjoy while we're driving or riding in the passenger seat. The shape and position of the greenhouse can have a pretty significant influence on the styling of the car. It's often the distinguishing feature between a sedan, a coupe, a wagon, a hot rod, an SUV, even a hatchback. And when they're tinted, that's just cool, literally and figuratively. Then there are mirrors. The smallest mirrors are found on the visors. They're often called vanity mirrors because we can check out how we look when we use them. And it should go without saying, they're not meant to help drivers tie a tie, shave their face, or apply lipstick while the car is in motion. And all of us have seen all of these things, this type of multitasking in action. Then there's the rear view mirror, an essential tool we use to detect blind spots and to drive in reverse, many times in conjunction with a rear view camera. It's far more convenient and way safer than the hand mirrors that people actually used in cars in the first decade or so of the 20th century. Finally, there's the side view mirrors, or wing mirrors, as some people might call them. They became a standard safety item in the late 1960s. Before that, they were actually seen as luxury options. The one on the left, the driver's side, provides an undistorted one-to-one reflection. It's achieved with a completely flat mirror, while the one on the right, the passenger side, is much different. It's convex or aspheric because of the greater distance between our eyes and the mirror itself. So it actually minimizes or minifies the objects shown, which can get us into trouble because it might lead us to believe there's enough room for a lane change to the right when in actuality there isn't. That's why every single modern-day vehicle has a message inscribed on the bottom of the passenger side mirror. And you can feel free to say exactly what's read along with me. Objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. It's a pretty philosophic statement, that one. Some might even say existential. Because here we are in the last couple weeks of 2020, a year that probably everyone in the world is ready to put in the books or put in the rear view mirror, so to speak. So many of us are looking forward to a better year ahead. God willing, with not one, but likely 2 FDA-authorized vaccines by the end of tonight. Knowing full well, of course, that we're in the midst of a devastating winter where hope and light may seem very distant. In all likelihood, the biblical story that involved Joseph began with a mirror. First, because he was known to gaze upon himself. There are a lot of commentaries that speak to this. It was said he was quite handsome and none too humble about it. And in this week's Torah portion, miketz, meaning after 2 years' time, Joseph reflects on even more dreams, as if with a mirror. Dreams that will ultimately redound to his favor, but not at first. Having been thrown into the pit by his jealous brothers, he was later sold into slavery. In Egypt, shortly thereafter, he was wrongly accused of improprieties, and once again found himself plunged into darkness, this time as a prisoner, where Joseph languished for years, 2 years actually, because of the inopportune forgetfulness of a certain chief cupbearer whose dream he interpreted. Well, no one likes to find themselves at the bottom of a pit, whether it's due to despair, to grief, a fall from grace, illness, or just plain bad luck. I think that all of us would much rather feel elevated. Throw me a rope, someone might say, if they were looking for help transforming a challenging or difficult situation into a more positive one. Biblical Joseph, or Joe if you'd like, was beset with disappointment and distress, like so many of us this past year. But rather than completely wallow in despair, he looked for a window that could shed some light on his experiences and imbue them with meaning. Much like the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, the late Viktor Frankl, said after living through great darkness himself. Frankl writes, "The meaning of our existence is not invented by ourselves, but rather detected. What matters, therefore, is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at a given moment." For Joseph, the past was prologue. It helped to define his presence and even shape his future. This is Frankl's point, and a great lesson we can learn from Joseph's example. Joseph didn't let the bleak memories of his past become corrosive. Instead, he chose to find blessing where he could find it and find insight in them. Joseph looked ahead and dreamed of a different future, a brighter future. He never forgot his past experiences, both good and ill. In fact, he named his sons after those misfortunes. He never forgot about those past experiences that brought him to the present day. He just wanted to wring a little bit or a bissel of wisdom from them. Some time ago, Rabbi Dan Moskowitz, he's a rabbi in Vancouver, I believe, he wrote that if Joseph had an imaginary car, and that car had a bumper sticker, the following phrase might be displayed proudly on the car's fender, or maybe its back window. Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. Now, the good rabbi didn't make up this slogan. It's actually from a cartoon that I used to read called The Family Circus. But he did put Joseph, the car sticker, and the lesson together, and that's a pretty neat hat trick. In fact, it creates something of an amalgam between a window, which lets in light, and a mirror, which reflects an image we experience, where two different things derived from the very same raw materials, sand, soda ash, and limestone, become one. Joseph is a fascinating archetype because he was able to radically transform his life and his interactions with people around him. He began with a mirror only thinking of himself, but eventually grew to embrace others and care greatly for them. Or to put it another way, he went from I, me, mine, to quote the Beatles, to we, us, and ours, much akin to the light that a car's greenhouse lets in. Both the mirror and the window are made from the same material, but each has their own purpose and meaning, philosophically and existentially. Right now, in many ways, we're more physically apart than ever before. We have virtual services, Zoom education, and very, very small gatherings where masks separate one person's breath literally from another. Yet more than any time in recent memory, we need to coalesce. We need to symbolically come together for the sake of our health, for the common good, and to spread the message that we care not only for ourselves, but for everyone else in our communities, which is a pretty good lesson for all of us. We can't afford right now to be Joseph as he was in his earliest years. The cost of human life will be too high, especially as the pandemic continues to rage. Nor is it the time, as Viktor Frankl would suggest, to discover the meaning of life in general. Rather, we need to determine the specific meaning of our life at this given moment. One day, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll have such a luxury. But now, we just don't. We need to come together not in physical proximity, but as a community, a collective where one person cares for another. This, I think, is precisely what our nation needs right now. It'll take a lot of work, a great deal of compassion, and a stick-to-itiveness that we're sorely in need of. Along with each of you, I hope and I pray that the year 2021 will bring much-needed light into the world. We started to gather this light during the 8-day festival of lights called Hanukkah, which was a good start, a lot of fun, and a blessing. Now we really need to dig deep within ourselves and find even more light that we can share with others. And whether we reflect this light with mirrors or let it simply shine brightly through windows, let's resolve to make this new year much better than the last. May God bless each of us on our journey. May God give us resolve for the weeks and months to come, so that our hearts and spirits will be filled with strength, resilience, and love. Going to continue our service with the words of Aleinu, the adoration that you'll find on the bottom of 282, right on the screen before you. Let us praise God, sovereign of the universe. Please rise as the ark's opened.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורל עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Feel free to be seated. And let's now turn to page 294 if you have a prayer book for the words of Mourner's Kaddish, words of praise. So we think about families in the first 30 days of mourning in the period of Shloshim. So remember the following individuals: Gail Friedman, friend of Ed Marks; Dr. Harry Wilkes, friend of Rachel Wilkes McCann; Dr. David Shelton, friend of Dr. Myron Graff; Newton Levy, brother of Myra Scheidler; and Marlene Packler, wife of Mel Packler. We also mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of a loved one, of the following individuals who died during this season and years past. We remember Herbert Arenstam, Beth Diamond Fisher, Anita Elias, Ida Fishman, Joseph Frankel, Shirley Gorlick, Richard Harding, Lillian Cadis, Sidney Kaufman, Hortense Kent, Yetta Kornfeld, Carol Landis, Keith Lawrence, Bernice Lesser, Beatrice Levy, Melchor Nove, Morris Pincus, Richard Posner, Morris Teckler, Shirley Wenig, and Edward Zeisler. If there are any names to add for yahrzeit, for anniversary at this time, feel free to recite their names aloud or in your heart. We say Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of all of these people continue to serve as a blessing as we rise to offer the words of Mourners Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bialma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam ulalmei almayah, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha b'rihu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Hosei shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and the world, as we say, amen.
V'miru, 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 amen. V'miru, 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 amen.
Feel free to be seated. You'll find the Shabbat Kiddush on the screen before you or on page 5 in the prayer book. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'riah gafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher gidishanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratah banu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'yahava uvratzon ingilanu, zichara lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher letzilat Mitzrayim, ki banu b'charta v'yotanu kidasha mikohanim, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ava uvratzon hinaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Time to light. Motzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Some announcements for Shabbat. This upcoming Tuesday, the 22nd at 11 o'clock, we're going to have our first coffee talk with Rabbi Matt on Zoom. Join us at 11 for music, trivia, schmoozing. Starting on Tuesday, January 5th, I'll be presenting a 3-part adult ed series called Push Carts and Dreamers, an exploration of Yiddish stories. We'll look at English translations. That's also at 11 o'clock. On January 14th, Eric Steckler will be leading a Zoom presentation for us entitled The Palestinian Refugees of 1948 in Israel, Past, Present, and Future. Finally, on February 25th, TS will proudly present an evening with Rabbi Bob Alper, who's also a comic. The topic, the spirituality of laughter. Why are Jews so funny? I already know they're pretty funny, but I'm sure that he's going to make it very, very funny. Our closing song is going to be Oseh Shalom. You'll find it right on the screen before you. Oseh Shalom Bimromah, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Be'alko Yisrael V'yimeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromah, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Be'alko Yisrael V'yimeru Amen. Conclude, as we've been doing, with a prayer for our health and well-being, for the mitzvah to protect life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al shmirat ha-nefesh. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Next Friday, Rabbi Klein will be leading here once again on the 25th. Have a great weekend. Shabbat shalom.